Alright, so today we're going to talk about using your regular everyday single-handed rod and being able to cast big freaking honkin' flies with it with something called the single-handed Skagit setup. Here we go. So basically, a single-handed Skagit setup is a way that you can do spey casts, but be able to, you know, shoot these guys out at considerable distances effectively with, you know, your regular 9-foot, 6 weight, 5 weight, 4 weight, whatever you have on hand. And it's thanks to the Skagit heads that are available nowadays that make it possible. So without further ado, let's go over the setup of my regular Orvis Clearwater, and we'll start right at the reel and we'll go right back to the rather the backing up to the terminal end, and then everything in between. So let's get to it. So what we have is mono running line here, okay? And this mono running line, there's 100 feet of it, and it is called probably the cheapest part of this whole system, Berkley Trylene Big Game, and this is the solar collector. It's 40-pound test, and that's what I use, and it's great. If you talk to a lot of like quote-unquote Skagit masters, you know, they'll recommend using that running line, and I have not had that much of a complaint about it. We'll get into a few cons, but that's later in the video. Anyways, so what I do here is I have 100 feet of it, and I put in just a perfection loop, okay? And that is because the next section, which is the cool part, is the Skagit head. The Airflo Skagit Scout. Now, this is old, oh sorry, I should say that this is a 15-foot head, and it is 240 grains, so it pairs up for a 6 weight. Now, different manufacturers of this style of Skagit head will recommend different things, so such as OPST. OPST has a Commando head, and they recommend 225 grains, okay? So something to be aware of if you're looking at line charts, which one to choose. That's what they recommend. So this is also old packaging. It comes in a newer, cooler looking box. I guess it's still the same thing, but whatever. Anyway, so the Skagit Scout has a loop-to-loop connection on both ends. So this is the reel end, and there is a little tag that'll say this end to the reel, so you don't get it all confused. But anyway, so you put it on your loop-to-loop here, okay? And then you kind of keep running it over here to the end, and the end has like a little blue little indicator here, and that's blue for water, so that's the for the terminal end, and it connects as well to a loop to this right here. And this is the coolest part, is and this is what makes it so versatile as well, is this is actually the sink tip. Okay, so you can use all sorts of sink tips. You can use like really fast sinking sink tips. You can use intermediates. You can use floating, whatever you so desire. But what I use is this stuff right here. So this is called a Polyleader, and it's made from Airflo as well. I use 5-foot Polyleaders, and the reason why I use 5-foot, and it doesn't matter if it's a Polyleader or a piece of like T14, I think it is, or whatever, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to have it about 5 feet, and the reason being is because for a single-handed 9-foot rod, you don't want to have too much stuff out there. It's a lot of stuff to manage. So 5-foot Polyleader, this one is the Airflo 5-foot, and it's actually the Salmon Steelhead one. I'm gonna leave links to this in the description for everything here, so you kind of know where to get it. It's just gonna be to the website. I have no, like, there's no affiliate links or anything like that. Like, I'm not sponsored at all. Like, I make no money on any of this, so I'm just an honest guy. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys, and that's EA. All right, so what's neat about this is that the Polyleader actually has a piece of monofilament at the end, and what you do from that is you then tie on your leader. And for leader, I actually use Maxima Clear. From this, you run about 4-5 feet, okay? And then from that, you just attach your streamer to it, and just like a regular like loop knot here, and you're good to go. Anyways, cons, let's go. So for this here, the running line, okay, needs to be stretched every time you want to go out. So that is one of the cons. Now this, I don't care what running line you use, whether it's this really cheap Berkley stuff or if it's like OPST laser line, you still got to stretch it. You got to, and now this is the only thing, is that the other running lines won't take as long to stretch, but I'll just take, you know, like maybe 3-4 feet section, put it by my knees and just kind of sit there and just pull it out, and seems to work just fine. Just stretch it for a bit and you're good to go. But something to keep in mind, and of course it's a con because it's just taking that little bit of time away from you. And as well, when I'm stretching it out, I stretch about maybe 40 feet of it, 50 feet of it, so it doesn't take that long, but something to keep in mind. Anyways, another con is the knots. I have my little cheat sheet here, so I'm always looking at it. There's a lot of knots here that have to go through the guides. You know, whenever you're dealing with loop-to-loop connections, it's gonna happen. Now, the thing is, they have to be there because the versatility of this system basically relies on the fact that you can interchange heads, and you can interchange, you know, your sink tips and you know, so on and so forth. So you're gonna have to deal with that stuff, and especially when this guy right here, when you're reeling in a fish, in order to get that fish in, I mean, you're gonna at the very least gonna have to pull in some of this guy here. I mean, we're talking about a long amount of line that's going to be out, about 25 to 30 feet of line, just to get it to the first junction. So because of that, you got to get it through the rod tip, and in order to do that, I mean, you got to kind of, you know, just give it a little, you know what I mean? And that's going to happen for every single snake guide here on this Orvis Clearwater, at least. So something to be aware of, and I'd rather, you know, you guys know about this. Now there is a way around that, and that is if you go and you purchase something like the Scientific Angler has a integrated Skagit style, and I think it's called the Spey Lite. I'll leave that info in the description underneath, if it still is underneath. I don't know, YouTube changes stuff, so wherever the description box is, everything's going to be in there. Okay, and as well, I should mention OPST has something. It's called the Commando Smooth Integrated, I think is what it's called. That's going to be in the description as well, if you don't want to deal with all those knots. Now the only con to that is that they're not going to cast as well as this. These monofilament is super slick. It runs through the guides like a freaking bullet train. It just goes. So something to be aware of. All right. So let's go on to the next con, which is it kind of works nicely with this. Is there's a lot of line to manage if you're not used to this. So we're talking about like 25-30 feet of line that you're going to have to deal with almost all the time, and it's if you're running like if you're gonna be going in a tight situation, like a smaller river, you know, that kind of thing, anything that, you know, that you're gonna have to kind of maneuver a little bit more, having this much line out kind of gets a little annoying at times. So something to keep in mind. So basically you got to just pick your poison. Where are you going to use this system? Is this one hole that you find able to be fished with that? And if not, you might have to change spools and go with something else. But something to keep in mind. I thought I'd let you guys know. Another thing that I want to talk to you about is, you know, it's like, I want to say it's a con and it's a pro at the same time. And it's the commotion that is created with this system. This is a lot of mass that's going to hit the water, okay? So if you're using this in like you know, slower flow waters, you're gonna make a lot of splashies, okay? Splashies, all right? Especially when you're chucking these guys. Oh man, sorry, I was tying flies earlier, so there's tons of marabou. There's always marabou everywhere here. But this mass is gonna, it's gonna hit down on that water. It's gonna make a splash. Your streamer's gonna make a big splash. So be mindful of that when you're fishing. Especially when you're swinging flies, you always want to cast it away from your target and let it swing in anyways. So, but I mean, if there's a pool right up next to the pool that you're fishing, you're gonna have to sacrifice some, maybe spooking some fish. Something to keep in mind. But as well, it could be a pro, because sometimes fish get attracted to hearing that splash and they go and investigate, and then out of predatory instinct, they'll just boom, smash that fly. Could work as a pro. Just thought I'd let you know. There's a lot of stuff here that's gonna make some commotion. There is a few other cons I'm just going to quickly go over. So the learning curve, there's a learning curve to this. If you're not proficient at doing your regular everyday roll cast, you might have some issues, at least, for the get-go. If you can just sit there and just use, your regular floating line for a little while and get proficient at doing some spey casts with just regular floating line, or weight forward, or even better, if you could get a double taper, you'll become a roll cast magician. And just practice some of those casts, practice like a double spey is pretty simple to do. Snake roll, probably not as easy. But I like doing double spey. I love the snap teeth. Some people don't like it because they think they'll break their rod tip. I've never done that, and I do it all the time. Snap teeth are sweet. Anyways, maybe learn at the parry poke. Try to learn the single spey. The single spey is such a simple cast, but it's very hard. Or it's I shouldn't say hard. It's very easy to get wrong, especially if you put too much creep into that forward flick or the forward cast. Anyways, I digress. I just think that it's something that should be brought up, that there is a learning curve to flinging this thing. But on the pro side, it doesn't take that long. Where I learned was, I just went to the beach. I went to a beach where nobody was around. I got in about 2 feet of water, and I just started flicking this thing. And I'd say within maybe 15 minutes, I could start doing some casts. But after a good hour, hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, I was flinging that thing like a dart. So it doesn't take long. Just thought I'd let you know. Another thing is, this is the last con that I'm going to mention, is the expense. Now, this is going to be a lot cheaper than going out and buying, a switch rod and the whole switch setup, like a 11 foot or 12 foot, or even a big spey rod, 13 and a half feet, 14 foot rod, and then everything you need for that. And that's why this is so appealing, is because you just use everything you have, but you have to buy some added stuff. So the head itself is, this one was, it's about $70 Canadian. You can get them, some heads are like $80 Canadian. So these are added expenses. But you know what's gonna get you? And the running line, of course, running line's really cheap. The running line's maybe 8, 10, 12 bucks. If you go with an OPST, I think they're really expensive up here. In Canada, it's like 30 bucks or something, maybe even more. This is where I think you're gonna spend quite a bit of money, is on polyleaders. These aren't cheap. They're like 10 bucks, 12 bucks, sometimes $15, sometimes 20 bucks. I've seen them. You're gonna want at least 2 or 3 of them just to cover all the water columns. So right there, that could cost you upwards of 60 bucks, depending on how much you can get them for. So, you add all that up, it's starting to get a little pricey. Some that I think you need to know about. And as well, you're then gonna wanna go out and buy some big hooks and stuff so you can tie some big meaty flies. That's all gonna cost you money. So in comparison view, if you look at how much it costs to do you know, like your switch rods and your Spey rods, yeah, I would say that this is a pretty darn cheap way to go. And let's just now get into the pros of everything, like the whole setup. And the number one pro is it's a lot of fun to do. I mean, I have a ton of fun doing this. In fact, when I'm using this setup, I gotta say, I don't even care if I catch a fish. It's fun to do. It's fun to see a big fly just fling out of like a 5-weight or a 6-weight rod. Mind you, for a 5-weight, just before I just want to make mention, 210 grain from Airflo is for the Skagit Scout is what's recommended for the 5 weights. Anyways, it's just back to the program. Of course, it's a lot of fun. Once you get the technique down, just seeing that fly just with like minimal effort just go out like 60 feet, where, you know, when you're doing like you know, standard floating line and you're doing a chuck and duck, just getting that 60 feet almost feels like you need to put it, I mean, there's a lot more effort into it. There's also, I mean, if you do a double haul like that with a single-handed rod, if you got good technique, it doesn't take much to swing out to 60 feet. But here's what I want to get into next is backcasts. There's no backcast with this. I mean, you could do backcasts with it, but you don't have to. And that's what I love about this system, is that I could go right up against the wall if I needed to, and I could get a cast off that'll launch like 60 feet minimum. Okay, so I've never gone to 100 feet, and I've seen guys being able to launch a 6-weight rod out 100 feet with this system. I'm not there yet. I'm more in like the 60, 80 feet, getting close to the 100 feet, but I'm not there yet. I don't know if I ever will be, but hey, man can dream, right? But anyways, you don't need much backcast because it's all roll cast techniques. So like I was previously mentioning, the single Spey stuff and the double Spey, these are all casts, by the way. Snake rolls and parry pokes and all, like the list goes on, these techniques, and it's actually a lot of fun, back to the fun stuff, to learn all these techniques, because there's going to be a time where you're going to want to use those types of casts. But just to let you know, you don't need like any like backcast room. The one thing I will say though is that overhanging branches and stuff, you got to be mindful, because you got to get that D loop. But once you get that D loop and you shoot it out, like maybe above the D loop, maybe like you need like a few more feet, depending on how tight your cast is, for that to unravel out. But that's it, bro. Bro, I don't know who's listening and who's watching. I apologize that I addressed you like that. But anyways, I digress. Let's get back into more pros. Please stick with me. What's really cool is being able to cast, you know, larger flies, and that's what really drew me to the whole Skagit thing in the first place, was knowing that I could swing a really big fat fly, or, you know, just even using it in a lake or whatnot. That's really neat, and something that just adds to that versatility. And speaking of the versatility of this thing, is that when you start playing around with these guys here, so the different sink rates and all that, you can hit different columns of water. And when you kind of experiment with which column you want to be swinging at, or however you want to use the system, then you're set, you're ready to go, and you're going to be catching a lot of fish that way. So something to keep in mind is how cool that is. As well, I should say, like, you can also, you know, experiment with different heads and, you know, different tips of course, and all that. And that's why I went with this guy right here. Sorry, I'm looking down, trying to make sure that I'm not going to tangle it all up. But the running line is because the running line allows, the monofilament running line, I should say, it allows me to do some interchangeability, so it increases that versatility of this whole system. My final thoughts on this, obviously, if you haven't picked up on it, is that I really like using this system, and I'll continue using a single-handed Skagit system like this, because the setup is quite simple. Yeah, there's a bit of upfront cost to it, but it sure as hell beats going out and buying a two-handed rod and all that to do that stuff. Now, will I buy a two-handed rod? Well, this was the gateway to it, so I probably will. But that's not to say that I'm still not going to use the single-handed stuff. I think it's really cool that it's so versatile that I could be, you know, going for dries earlier that day, swap out, you know, just pop off my spool and put on my dry fly spool and I'm ready to go. Yeah, it takes a couple minutes, but I'm out fishing. I'm having fun. I'm not looking at the clock. I don't care for that. Regular life has a meter on it all the time. So when I'm out there, I don't care. It's just good times, just having fun. Anyways, do I recommend this? Absolutely. Should you look into it? Absolutely, which you are right now. So I hope this video helped you, and if it did, thank you so much. Maybe stick around for some more videos. I'm going to be uploading a lot more now, so thanks so much for watching. I'm Greenhorn Flyhorn. My name's Milan. We'll catch you on the next one.